So now that we have that started up. So, Greg, I know that we still have a ton of people. I can see them popping up on the screen and coming in. But we'll go ahead because, all that initial stuff always takes a few minutes. So what Greg and I are going to be talking about today is kind of the next step in what we were talking about before, which was after the speed of service has happened, and you have to go in and you have to make that initial recommendation to a customer or the final sale of the service recommendation to a customer, and you get objections during that time period of time. So what we're going to talk about is, well, how do you handle those objections? So I don't think, Greg, I do know that we have a lot of, as you know, you and I were talking on Friday, we have a lot of new franchisees and regional developers that actually have just come in even in the last week or so. So a couple of people may not know your background. And you know what, you've had some things that have kind of been changing, but I'm going to let you kind of go a little bit over your role now and how many shops you own across the country, and also, of course, being a owner of Mudlick Mail, because I would love for you to give everybody an update and a reminder on Mudstock while you're kind of going over a little bit about where you're at now.
If you could do me a favor, I'm at the give me just a minute. Let me just walk inside.
Oh, no.
I apologize.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, Greg is he was planning on being at a location by now to do his webinar, but unfortunately got a little lost.
Can you not put it right there? So I can't put it anywhere? Well, then what do you do if you're a resident here? Or
So we're listening to Greg, everybody. He's trying to figure out where to go in a downtown Charlotte right now. So he's having a great time driving around. So I will do a little bit on Greg. So, of course, everybody knows Greg is the owner of Mudlick Mail, and Tim Ross, of course, is president. Greg and I have been friends, and Tim and I have been friends for years. Greg and I have been doing these webinar series for quite a while now. Of course, they're one of our main sponsors for our Mudlick Mail, which is one of the core aspects of our marketing campaigns. And Greg has been, of course, going through, as many of you know now, some transitions. Greg has, and I don't know, Greg, if you want to give everybody an update on what locations you currently still do have and kind of where you're at with all of that.
Yeah, well, we just recently sold our Atlanta stores to Driven Brands, but we still have 2 stores in Atlanta, the service streets. And just quite frankly, they just offered more than what the stores were worth. We weren't for sale. But we still have stores in Texas, Colorado. We're doing a joint venture with Carrie Near in Phoenix. We have stores in Tennessee. We have European shops in Houston. So we have a number of stores kind of spread out. All of them now I have joint ventures with. So what I've done is I have somebody either has worked for me a lot of years that knows my concept, or somebody that has gone for years to my seminars that I've done, like Carrie Near. He's been with me a long time. And so, I've been able to just kind of partner up with good operators that I was comfortable with, and it's just worked out. So that's, and, we have a couple, I think we have 2 stores that we're building in Denver, and we have a store in Knoxville that we're working on, but those are joint ventures as well.
Okay. So, and just in the background of Greg, just so y'all know, Greg has been probably one of, he was from the restaurant industry before he came into the automotive industry, and he did actually run many Goodyear shops, some of the top in the country. And then before basically driving his own brands up to, I believe you almost had at one point 40 locations when you had all of them, and most of them were some of the most successful automotive repair shops in the entire country. Greg also has been a speaker at many, many conventions, writes for articles for magazines, so definitely has the credentials to talk about these subjects, I think.
Well, yeah, it's what I've been doing this for 22 years, and I built 70, I think, I don't want to lie, but I think it's about 77 stores. We were, back in the 90s, I had the largest chain of Goodyears in the state of Texas. We were the largest independent dealer there and sold out in 2000 and moved to Atlanta, and then was really more on the line of retiring, and but unfortunately that isn't what it's all cracked up to be, and so I had stores in Atlanta, and then I just started branching out and look up, and we've kind of done the same thing again. So between all of our companies, even after selling the stores we have today, we should still do around $50 million in sales. And I think we've done about $700 million in total sales over the last 21 years. So I've done a lot of car repair.
Oh, yeah. Now, just before we go on into the meat and potatoes, do you want to give everybody an update on Mudstock, when it is? Can they still get in? Some of the great highlights that might be coming up?
Sure. We are really basically sold out for Mudstock. I know that Tim has held some spots for Honest One, but not everybody even now. I think we had 18 spots in total that were left. So if you want to go to Mudstock, I will tell you it's the best. I mean, one, I do training at Mudstock not only on how to hire technicians, how to hire and train good managers. Mike Daniels comes in. He has 14 stores in Texas, and he teaches on operations. We have Aaron Clemens and his daughter, and they've worked together, and they're going to do a section on family in the business, which is really mission critical. Sherry's doing one on accounting and the importance of accounting. And then on the third day, I do all the stuff in regards to financing. How do you do a build-to-suit? How do you negotiate a lease? How do you find a great location? And I can tell you that I've done just day 3 where I go in depth on real estate, and we usually sell that out. I haven't done that in a couple of years because of my schedule, but any one of the days is well worth it. You're a keynote speaker the first night, which will be great. Second night, we have Marcus Lemonis, who is the prophet on CNBC, who has bought several businesses. I'm sure there's people on here that's heard of him. Great business person. So it's one of the most really first-class operations you can get. And I know that Honest One gets $100 off on their entry fee or something like that. But I don't really take care of that part of it. But if anybody on this call wants to go, I would strongly suggest that you call Mudlick Mail, or Rissy can give you the number, or I guess I can. It's
just let one of us know if you want to go.
Yeah, because you won't. It's the place we're having at Barnsley Gardens is a 5-star resort.
It's amazing.
You don't have to stay there. You can stay at. There's 2 other hotels. It's less expensive and just drive there. It's within 10 miles, but it is beautiful. It is a very good event. So if you want to improve your skills on hiring or selling, or you want to know how to sell or how to buy real estate or a lease, or how do you get financing, stuff like that, I mean, there's just, or accounting, which a lot of people don't think is that important, but it's mission critical. Then this is a very inexpensive way to learn, and plus meet a lot of incredible shop owners around the country.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Going to the next thing before, and we'll be diving in, is if you don't already, or if you haven't gone back and listened to so far in the internet, you will find a lot of the presentations that Greg and I have done. And these are the core aspects that you want to make sure you have a handle on before even going forward. So say yes, speed of service, there's multiple on that inside of the doc shop. Essentials to run a top revenue shop, top owners' questions have been answered, goals and accountability, counter sales, fraud, parts margins, labor margins like we were just talking about. So don't forget you can go back in there and you can review those. So Greg, we will jump in. Today we're going to be talking about, we've gone past say yes and I hope, and we've gone past the speed of service, and now we're going to be talking about dealing with objections. But before you can even deal with objections, I know I've heard you said a lot of times is, shouldn't you have already done these critical aspects such as saying yes and building a relationship and the speed of service? How important is that before you even, quote unquote, get to dealing with objections?
Well, this is one of my favorite subjects because people think of objections as you pitch a price and somebody says no. I mean, that's basically an objection. But the things that you have on this slide here, I call it self-inflicted objections. So in other words, if you don't say yes, then you never get a shot at a customer. If you take too long, if your speed's too slow, you're creating a no. So in other words, a customer could show up to your shop with an oil change, be perfectly willing to buy whatever it is you're selling, but because it's taking you so long, they have now become a no customer. So, the self-inflicted objections are, I'd say when you break down, if you have took your all your complaints and said, okay, what percentage of your jobs that were turned down were self-inflicted? It's probably 40%. It's off the charts. And then how many jobs are turned down because the person selling the job really doesn't know how to close properly? That's one of the biggest things I've found is that you can take a guy who we say is a great salesman because he sold a lot of product. The thing about our business that's misleading is that you can sell a lot of product. That doesn't make you a good salesperson, because some people, they drive up to your shop, they walk in your front door, they tell you they got a problem. You can do a horrible job, and there is some percentage of people that are going to buy no matter what you say. And we found that sometimes people that sell a lot, I call it the Michael Jordan theory. Michael Jordan, he scored a lot of points, but he shot the ball a lot. He missed a hell of a lot. That's a lot that happens with salespeople at the stores, is that we think they're good salespeople, but then if you listen to the way that they close, I can tell you, just listening to one person pitch one job, whether or not they know what they're doing. So, of course, most salespeople try to avoid me. But when I ask the question, so take that into account. You have self-inflicted objections, and then you have problems with how we close, which causes an objection. And then you have a basic objections that everybody loves to talk about, which is, I don't have enough money, I want to sell my car. And those are easy. Those are a piece of cake because they're so obvious. So I just want to make that clear. It's a little more complicated than just basic, hey, I'm going to sell my car. But I want to go through all of these so that we can get past them. And then hopefully the folks on here will go back to their stores and go, let me just test this stuff that Greg is saying and see if it's true. It can radically change your sales if you listen to this seminar closely or webinar.
Absolutely. And the last thing that you said on there is how did they close and all of that. You and I were talking about, I think on Friday, is the other part of that is that many of them, we were talking about how they actually never do close. They never ask for the sale. They just answer a question or quote-unquote objection, and they stop speaking. And then, of course, the customer's next thing is, well, yeah, I don't have time today, or can you get, basically they're never even closing. And if you don't close, then you're definitely not going to get the sale.
Right.
Now, the other core aspects that you had talked about is, okay, so if we haven't said yes and we haven't built the relationship and we haven't done speed of service and we haven't closed, well, we're never even going to get to dealing with the rest of these objections. But some of the other core aspects that we have been talking about that can really, really help you overcome objections before you even get to them is one of these core things that you've talked about a lot in the past is prep time. So I definitely wanted you to go over with everybody what is prep time and why is that so critical to begin with?
Well, okay. The way we set up for selling a job, let's say a customer comes in and they want you to check their brakes. Well, first, you can say prep time is selling in a system. It's making sure that you inspect the car yourself with the technician so that when you're selling to a customer, you can say, Miss Johnson, do you have a minute to talk about your vehicle? And they'll say yes. If they say no, then ask them a good time to call back. If they say yes, then you say, I personally inspected your braking system with John, our ASE certified trained technician, and this is what we found. What we found is you never want to have a manager sell something that they haven't physically seen. Even if they don't know a lot about cars, the manager has to see it before they sell it. If they don't see it, then one, they're going to lower the chance because they're not 100% certain. They're not 100% certain that's what the car needs. But if a technician can walk you through it and show you, hey, why does it need brake pads? Well, see how far that's worn down? They're about 90% worn down. They should be this big. And see these little rivets? That's what's causing the brakes to squeal. You can go through the whole braking system. So when we role play, we look at the car with the technician. When the technician, we're asking questions. Remember to sell. I want to stress this again. Make sure that you're selling in systems. So if somebody wants their brakes checked, we look at their entire braking system. If they have a coolant leak, it's their cooling system. If it's a starting problem, it's their starting or their electrical system. So you always want to think in system. So the role play, so we prep, we go out and look at it, and then we role play with either a manager, and if the manager's not there, we can role play with the technician, and we ask them to give me some objections. It just gets your confidence up. So, and it also really gets you to nail down the ticket. So the way that I look at a ticket is, okay, you check out the vehicle, then you write positives about the car. This is where you run into problems, and I'm sure if we look ahead, you'll have it on here. But whenever somebody says they want to sell their car, it's because we didn't give them enough positives about their vehicle. So we always start out with, John, my ASE certified trained technician, I personally inspected your vehicle, and overall your vehicle is in great shape. Now, it may be for the age it's in great shape, or for the miles it's in great shape. And then you go through it, and you always want to, so for example, if you go to a brake job, and let's say it needs brake pads, I'm going to tell them that I fully inspected your braking system, and overall your braking system is in great shape. Your rotors still look to be fine. It may be the master cylinder. You still have a really good solid brake. The brake lines look good. Right now all we're recommending is to replace the brake pads. We might also flush the braking system and turn the rotors, which the turning the rotors, we feel like at this time you can still save them. All the work that we have carries a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty, or in your case, 2 years, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty. And we can get that job for you today. And your total investment is $249 plus tax. I'm going to go ahead and order the brake pads. And while the brakes are on the way, I'll go ahead and check out the rest of the vehicle for you. Is this number a good number I can reach? Is 678-231, blah, blah, blah. So the whole point is that when I called the customer, I gave him a benefit. I said, John, my ASC certified trained technician. That's a benefit. ASC certified trained technicians. Second benefit was the warranty, 2 years, 24,000-mile warranty. The third benefit is that we can get it done today. So you can even put a fourth that when you call back that, hey, would you like me to pick you up in our customer shuttle? So the whole point of the prep time is to check out the vehicle, go over with the technician, make positives, points, sell in systems, and then put at least 3 benefits. Honest One has unique benefits. The reason why they do is for exactly that reason. So when you're selling to somebody, you're not selling price. You're selling unique benefits. You got a great warranty. You've got a shuttle. You have amazing store hours, things like that. So then let's say a customer says, we pitched a job, and we said, your total investment is $249 plus tax. I'm going to go ahead and get started on it, blah, 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 right? And they go, oh, no. I don't want to do that. Well, we ask why. They may say, well, it's just too expensive. I heard I can get it done for $159. The turning over the ticket that Rissy has here, that's mission critical. It may be that you say, well, if price is your concern, then let me do a little bit of homework. Give me about 5 minutes to make some phone calls. We do business with over 100 vendors, and we can shop around. Let me just make sure that I get you the best price possible since price is your concern. Give me about 5 minutes, and either I'll call you back or the owner's in today or the general manager. They're in today. He may want to give you a call or she may want to give you a call themselves. So give me a few minutes and we'll call you back. The whole point is to leave the ticket open so that they're expecting a phone call back, and now we know what their issue is, which is price, and we can shop to see if there's a way to get a better price. Now, even if we do, we still want to go back and not match somebody's lower price. But this is hopefully that makes sense. We're covering a lot of ground in about 10 minutes.
I know. So just to go back, some of the key things that Greg had talked about was build the value of the car, make sure you do the positives, do the prep time and role play. And Greg, I know I've had a lot of people, do your guys do a prep time and a role play every time? And if they don't, what do you normally see?
Well, you can tell the guys that don't. People, I can tell you, managers do not like to role play. And I always wondered why. Why wouldn't you want to do it? And here's the problem as owners that you guys are going to always have. You don't have to do any of this stuff I'm telling you. And there are a certain number of people that are going to buy everything that you ask. So, see, that builds credibility. A guy goes, look, I didn't role play. I didn't even look at the car. I just pitched the job, and they said, yeah, do it. So it loses. They don't think they need to do it. All the stuff that we're talking about is a difference between maybe $10,000 or $15,000 a month in sales. Now, for an owner, that could be $7,000 or $8,000 in net. So if you're breaking even, or you're just making a little money, or you're losing money, this is mission critical. Yeah, you don't have to do it on 80% of the cars. People are going to buy from you. But this will bring your close ratio up enough where maybe your sales are up another 10 to 20%. And that's why you have to stay on it. You have to prepare for the no, even though you're going to get a lot of yeses. And it really messes people up because they'll go, look, I didn't have to do anything, and I sold the whole ticket. So you, as an owner, you have to be aware of that you're trying to get that extra. If you got 5 out of 10 customers saying yes, maybe you get 7 out of 10 customers that say yes because you're prepared. You're handling the customer with the objection. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Basically, you're saying, for some of you, or for some people, it could be the difference between, okay, yeah, you hit your break even, and guess what? There's the difference between break even and profitability. Dollars to the bottom line, dollars that you actually get to have. For some people, that could be what the difference is. Right. And then go into the next core aspect and then we're going to really dive into you handling, let you live handle some objections, is this is part of dealing with objections, actually. I mean, if you do full system isolate, it's going to really help you. But what is it, and how can it help in your sales processes, and you dealing with objections, and you getting to those gross profit margins that we all have goals of getting to?
Okay, well, remember what I said about when you sell in systems. This full system isolate, what isolate is, sometimes customers come in and are managers, and they think they're doing the right thing. A customer comes in and their brakes are squeaking. Well, while the car is in, they go ahead and check out the rest of the vehicle. So they end up pitching not only a brake job, but, hey, and by the way, you need a coolant flush and you need a rear back tire. Well, now customers come in for brakes, and he's being pitched 3 different things. The customer may pass on the brakes and end up fixing the coolant leak. So they don't even fix what they came in originally because you gave them choices. You would have been better off to isolate whatever they came in for, plus it takes a lot less time. Only zero in on what they came in for. If you do that, one, if they're not going to buy what it came in for, chances are they're not going to buy anything else. So if they've got a coolant leak, they're probably not going to buy a tune-up. So why go through all the trouble doing that? Plus, they didn't ask you to look at that. You don't want to get into doing these huge estimates, only have somebody go, oh, my God, the car's not worth it. So full system isolate, it's a beautiful thing because, one, you're isolating a system. So whenever they tell you something, ask yourself what system is that in? And that's where people get into trouble with rechecks as well, which hurts your margins. It costs you money. For example, here's a common mistake. Fuel pump fails. Well, a rookie sells a fuel pump. Maybe he sells a fuel filter, but he doesn't flush the system and clean the injectors. Well, guess what? 2 days later, he's got a problem. The fuel lines were contaminated, or there's a problem with the injectors, and now you got to recheck. Or another example, they check out a car and say your alternator failed. The next day, the car doesn't start, and the battery has failed. Well, if you don't check out the full system, or maybe it's a cable you didn't replace. So now that you had an alternator that failed, the next day there's a cable on a battery that's all corroded, and now the customer's saying, well, it was that battery cable the whole time. You ripped me off. So when you get asked to check out something, make sure that you check the entire system and sell everything in that system that it needs so that you don't have rechecks. You'll make more money, much better margins. Your customers are happier because they're not going to have to come right back in because you didn't fix it. We've seen it with upper and lower radiator hoses. Somebody will replace the upper and lower radiator hoses but not the heater hoses. Well, once you replace weak hoses, the next problem is going to go to the next weakest link. So the next day, now you've got another hose that has gone out. So you've got to make sure that you're selling a complete system. And if you do that, you're doing a benefit for yourself and the customer.
Mm-hmm. And then, too, just to kind of give the final one on really how that can help on the GPs is that, we had talked about somebody came in and they said something like they did have that, the coolant leak or something and the water pump's leaking, is that you went ahead and you presented to them not only that, but you presented to them that it needed to have the coolant flush, the hoses and all that. So the entire system, that price was $800 plus taxes, and we can get you fixed and we can get you ready ASAP. But if they said, you know what, I can't afford all of that, when that happens, we had talked about before that's when people, in order to make the sale, they dive into their GPs. Well, when you did the full system, now we can say, okay, well, I completely understand what their particular price you had in mind or something like that, but understand your situation today. So what you need today, though, is that water pump and that thermostat and that flush, so we can now take care of those things for X amount, and then we can go ahead and schedule for the other items instead of just diving into those GPs.
Right.
Now we get to give some objections. So, Greg, you did all of those core competencies. You did that full system isolate, and you said yes, and you did speed of service, and you prepped, and you left the ticket open. You did all the, and the customer says no. It's just no. For, however they worded it, it's the same basic objection at the end of the day. How do you first typically handle that type of situation?
First time the customer says no, then I'm genuinely surprised, and I always ask why. That's the first thing you want to do, because any step to a customer saying no is we just want to know what the objection is, then we know how to handle it. We have an automatic system. So we know that when a customer says no, there's really only two reasons that they say no if you've done everything else right. It's time or it's price. So all I've got to do is go, okay, can I ask you why you don't want to do it? If they say, well, I just don't have the money right now, I don't get paid till Friday. Great news, we have 6 months same as cash. Let me go ahead and get some information from you and get you approved. What's your last, or let me get some information from you, and you just fill out the report. I think now it's as simple as a Social Security number. Social Security number, address, and you're ready to go. So if they say it's time, well, we have a convenient customer shuttle. Let me go ahead and pull it around for you, and let me get you a ride to work or wherever they want to go. So the objection, if you think of it in terms of, okay, it's either price or it's time, then I've got, with my benefits at Honest One, I can overcome literally any objection with the exception of somebody being unemployed, have no money in their bank account, and have no family members. Outside of that, I can overcome the objection, or I should be able to overcome the objection. But remember that when somebody says price, a lot of times it's trust. So they may tell you that, oh, well, that sounds really high. I'm not sure I want to do it. Well, if price is your concern, please allow me to make sure and let me compare our benefits and our price with whoever you'd like me to. I think you'll be very impressed with what the services we provide and the speed of which we provide and the quality of the repair. We are very comparable. But if you have a suggestion, who would you like me to call? The point is to never take a no. I've watched many people go, nope, I don't want to do it today. Well, okay, let me go ahead and pull that car around and get it to you. So it starts with ask why. And I think you might have some individual objections. We can go into those. But always ask why, and then once you get price or time, now we know the next step, right? So let's go through some objections.
So they say, Greg, man, that's a lot of money. I can't afford that.
Well, that's a very fair price for the services that we provide. Maybe I didn't explain it very well to you. So let's go over the estimate again, and I'll go into a little bit more detail of what we're doing. And so most of the time when you go back over the estimate again, now if you go, the minute they say that's a lot of money, and you go, oh, well, yeah, it is a lot of money. Now you just agreed with them. And as soon as you agree with them, then they go, oh, well, God, I don't know that I want to do that. So you never want to agree with them when they say it's a lot of money. Because in truth, it may not be a lot of money. It may be $4,000 for an engine, but that may not be a lot of money for that service. The dealership may charge $7,000 for a new engine. So even though, don't get hung up on dollar amount, get focused on the service that we're actually providing. So that's a common thing that we hear. The other one is that you have on there is, that's way too high, or that's outrageous. Why do people say that? They don't know if that's an outrageous price or if that's really high. They're looking for your response. See, they don't trust you. So just remember, when somebody says something like, that is a lot of money or that's outrageous, it's simply because they don't really know what else to say. So because it's a trust issue, you go back over the estimate, go back over the information. Don't roll over and lower your price right off the bat. But if they just go, you know what, that is way too high, well, give me an opportunity. Let me call and let me make some comparisons and just see where we're at. Just allow me 5 minutes to make some phone calls. Let me call the dealership real quick and just see where they're at, see if there's some way that we can come up with a better value for you. What I like to do, and I'll tell you now, is that let's say the customer's not going to get off the price. You guys are outrageous, blah, blah, blah. Well, it called, a competitor, and we're at $469, and they're at $350. Now, they only carry, now I'm going to go into benefits. We have to use really high-quality parts for us to offer a 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty. They have a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty. In a lot of cases, 6 months, 6,000-mile warranty. So I'll compare the warranty to our competitor. Straight away, there's a difference in value because most people are 12 and 12. So you can say, gosh, we're giving you double the warranty. And because of that, that limits us a little bit on the parts that we can get. But if you don't care about the warranty, then let me tell you, I can match that price for you, but let me tell you what I would rather do. I would rather take a hit, a little bit on the hit. They're at $359, I'm at $450. Let's just split the difference, and I'll give you the exact same warranty. I'll get that job for you today, and while the part's on the way, I'm going to go ahead and do a free inspection, check out the rest of the vehicle, and if I see any concerns, I'll let you know. So I'm going to go ahead and order the parts, and I'll call you if I see anything else. It's a good number where I can call you back. So you see how you just assume the sale, and you didn't match you offered to match the price, but you gave them a better value by saying, look, why don't we split the difference, and I'll keep your warranty intact. You'll still get the same better warranty, but I was able to get them off that lowest price. And sometimes a customer will have a price because they've shopped around. They may go, let me call you back. And then they call you back and go, well, gosh, I got a phone call, or I called around and I can get that done for you cheaper. It's the same process. Well, can I ask where you got the price? I'm happy to shop that myself. They may or may not be willing to give you the price, or the company that did it, but I would go back over the estimate with them. Gosh, we carry a 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty. We have ASE certified trained technicians working on your vehicle. We're going to get that job for you done today. It is a great value for the services, the parts, the quality that we provide. Let me go ahead and get this job done for you. I'll go ahead and order the parts, and they may go, no. What do I need to do to earn your business? That's always the key phrase if I can't get them off of that. They may say, well, you've got to match their price. Well, then let me contact them and just see let me just compare their price and services to ours, and then let me call you back and let's go over the estimate again, and let's just make sure we're on the same page. A lot of times, estimates don't have all the same parts or do not carry the same warranty, or they can't get it done today. If any of those apply, that's my advantage with the customer. And I've already walked through, if the customer just won't get off price, then you just have to make a business decision. Is it worth it to come off your price, which usually it is, and you may not have to exactly match that other customer. If you can come up a little bit and show value that, look, I'll still give you the same warranty, I'll still give you the same benefits, I'll still be able to get it done for you today, and you are able to save money, I'm able to reduce it by $30 or $40, and you make it sound like a great deal. If you lower your price $150, $200, then they're going to look at you as you're a complete rip-off. I've seen that mistake so many times. You're going to have to beat me up for an hour to get me to do something like that, because I'm going to take $10 or $15 off the price, and I'm going to make you feel like I just saved you $1,000, because I'm going to say, great news. Mm-hmm. Yes.
No, I was sitting there thinking, one of the core aspects we were talking about is, they keep wanting you to come off of this price. Well, if I'm a manager, I think this would be a great time for you to kind of go through is one of those great aspects of how would I, as a manager now, that keeps saying come off this price, and I'm not winning this battle, maybe I'm not educating right, maybe it's personality, maybe it's, they don't trust me. It's just not working. How would I now possibly use this as an opportunity to turn the ticket over if they're in the lobby or if I'm on the phone with a customer?
Well, either way, it's a piece of cake. And even if you're the owner, you're getting turned down. You can still say, if it's in the lobby, you should have somebody right there that you can quickly go to and say, hey, I just talked to her. This is the way we do it. Typically, an assistant manager will pitch the first time if they're in the lobby. If the customer says, no, I don't want to do it, he asks why. Hey, my general manager's here. Let me talk to him and let me just see what he can do. That's how you turn it over. If it's on the phone, it's the same thing. Well, let me talk to the owner. He's here. Or let me call him and just see if I can get a hold of him. He has a little bit more pull than I do as a manager, so maybe he can offer a better deal. I'll also talk to the technician and see if he's willing to do something on his labor as well. I really want to earn your business. So it's just a very easy way to turn over the ticket. But you really haven't, until you get the objection, you really will, you don't know. And a lot of times it's a customer that gives you the first objection. They roll over the minute you don't blink and you go right back into, no, it's a great price. If they see that, a lot of times they, well, yeah, go ahead and get it done. But if they say, no, I'm not going to do it, that's when you want to turn it over. Whether you're the owner, turn it over to a manager. If you're a manager, turn it over to the owner. You always want to say, hey, listen, my owner's here. Or if you're the owner, you know what, the general manager's here today, and he's got a lot more connections than I do. Let me see what he can do. And I'll also go talk to the technician. Give me a few minutes. And no promises, I might not be able to do anything, but let me just see what I can do. And then when I come back, I'm only going to take $15, $20 off of the price of the ticket. And I'm going to go, I have great news. Either John was able to call and be able to get that same part for a little bit less expensive. It's a little further away, but we'll be able to get it done for you today. Still carries the same warranty. I'm going to go ahead and order the part and get it started. If they say no, then I'm going to say, well, give me some time. Let me go talk to the technician. But I'm going to always keep it open until they just flat say, go to hell. I'm not doing it. I'm going to always try to keep it open until they just, even on the way to the car, I'm going to talk to them. Hey, just give me one more shot. Let me see what I can do. But sometimes there are those rare occasions where it's just not a good deal anymore. So if a customer, for example, if a customer comes to me and they want me to do a $400 brake job for $99, well, obviously I can't even come close to that. So I'm going to go over the features and benefits and why those brake pads are the only thing stopping that car going down the road. It's very important that you also have it done with an ASE certified trained technician. We're going to back up that repair with a 3-year, 36,000-mile nationwide warranty. I'm going to get it done for you today. It's a great value. But I'm not going to cut down the $99 brake job, because the minute you start cutting down your competitor, now you look like, you're trying. Here's what they're going to find out. They're going to go to that $99 brake job guy, and as soon as he gets there, that guy is going to say, oh, well, I can't do this for $99. I didn't realize you had special brake pads, or your rotors need turned. Or they do a $99 brake job and the brakes squeal. So they're going to find out, and when they do, they're going to know that you shot them straight. But there's also a very small segment of the population that really, they just don't care. They're just not, they're only price sensitive. You don't want to get confused and think that everybody's that way. That's why we always go through this process. Because you don't want to prejudge a customer. You want a customer to rule themselves out by going, the only thing I want is a $99 brake job. It's very rare, though. And managers will say, well, it's not rare in my store. Well, they're full of it. If they go through the whole process, they will find out that it is very rare. Okay,
now,
so
as we go through this, one of the things that I wanted to highlight, and I heard it from you and I heard it from Mike, and just for you to kind of point out simple words that I heard from you and from watching Mike at times, and it just really stood out to me. is that one of the times when y'all were talking about turning over that ticket, and I've always heard them, but I've heard it repeatedly when y'all are talking, is always letting the customer, I personally walked through everything with my ASC certified technicians to see what was going on, and so I could, understand what your price was or your timing concerns or whatever it may be. And I always that resonated with me that y'all made that such a key part of your process of saying, I personally went out and looked at this with my ASC certified technician because it was kind of tying back into those benefits. And I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that's something that y'all did that I just learned a tremendous amount from.
Well, remember, Rissy, and the reason why we do that is because remember why people say no. They say no because of price and time, and price comes down to trust. So when I say I personally inspected your vehicle with John, my ASC certified trained technician, I just added a lot of credibility with that customer. And the customer can't go, well, your technician doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I personally inspected it. So, see, that takes away, it disables them right away where they're going, oh, wow, this guy looked at my vehicle and with an ASC certified trained technician. So you've just taken a lot of the trust off the table, where they're not as worried. So we've just found that by saying those words, it just changes the demeanor of the customer. But this objection that you have up here now was one that we've just kind of covered, which is if they just want you to match the price, I will tell, if I can do it, I will tell them, look, I will match the price that JJ's is doing. However, for $45 more or whatever, gosh, I could give you double the warranty, much better quality part. Anytime a warranty, you can take any part, and if it has twice the warranty, it's a better part. It's warranted for longer. So I can give you better quality job for very little more money. I'd rather do that and take a hit off of my invoice than match their price. I'm telling you, almost every time they do that. I learned that in the Goodyear tire business, the 5 steps to a tire sale. We learned that, and I applied that to the selling of service, which is, there's always several different types of tires that you can sell, and you start with the most expensive, and as you work down, you're taking away benefits. Mm-hmm. And a customer will either go, oh, well, I've got to have that emergency roadside rescue. I've got to have 40,000-mile warranty, or I've got, they'll find an area where they go, oh, no. So when you say, gosh, you're going to get twice the warranty, and it's not going to cost you very much more to get twice the warranty, a lot of times they go, yeah, you're right, as long as I come off my price a little bit and meet them a little bit. And that's really the art of selling, is you don't just drop your pants the minute they say, oh, you're too high. Oh, let me see what I can do, and you lower your price $150. Then
you don't get the gross profit.
Yeah, and then
your margins go to heck.
And you're teaching your customers that, hey, go in there and just beat them up because they'll roll over off their price.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole reason to have those unique benefits. So you guys as owners on this call, and we should probably do another call on the same subject because it's so mission critical to get it, is that don't lose sight of the very first part. Isolate the job, sell in systems, role play, always sell with benefits. The one thing we haven't jumped on, I don't want to lose it when we go through benefits, never close on price. And what that means is, and some of you guys, if you just please try this at your store. Role play, ask a manager, or how you sell. If you ask yourself how you pitch a job to a customer, and ask your managers to actually sell you a job. If a customer says, and your total price out the door is $679 plus tax, or maybe they include tax, and they stop right there, horrible sales. All you have to do to dramatically increase your sales, and we've tested investment in price, and it really doesn't make any difference today. But, back in the day, we switched from price to investment. And I'm not saying that makes any difference, but that's not where you stop. If you say, your total price out the door, $679 plus tax. The customer hasn't heard anything prior to the price. All they hear is blah, 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 and the price or your investment. Then they start listening. It's $679 plus tax. I'm going to go ahead and get the parts ordered for you, and while they're on the way, I'll check the rest of the vehicle out. If I find anything, I'll let you know, or when the parts arrive, I'll just update you and let you know how the repair is going. Is this a good number where I could reach you, 6782? That's how, if you close on the phone number, you're going to sell more service. The reason for that is you've told them the price, you got them quickly off the price, and now they have to answer a yes or no question. And you test that in your stores and listen to this recording and just test it. Some of you guys just will not even believe how radical that will change your sales. Even if you screw everything up, learn to close on phone number, never on price. Add your 3 benefits. Always compliment the car. Go back over this recording and say, I'm just going to try to do these things. The more you can do of the sales pitch, the less of the real simple objections like we're going over now. These are objections that really were a byproduct of doing parts of the first part wrong. So now you're just having to overcome, or they're just a chronic price shopper, which is okay. But we don't judge anybody. We let them judge themselves. And that's when I got into the industry, that's one of the issues that I seen is I found myself, if somebody was not well dressed, or they were old, or they were too young, people like to prejudge a customer, and that's a big mistake. Treat them all the same, go through the same process, you'll sell a lot more repairs.
Mm-hmm. Going back to just some other keywords that you had said in the past, and that, just listening to the team and y'all's team, and some great things is that when you were talking about, finding out and shopping around, is when y'all were going through and doing the comparables of, hey, I know JJ's Auto, they gave you a price, was what I absolutely loved was basically putting in this insinuation of, having to go with a quote-unquote inferior brake pad that's comparable. So to what JJ is quoting, I'm going to have to reduce my warranty. Also, we can handle that for you, but also we can't, maybe warranty or prevent it from squealing because it's an inferior product or pad or something along those lines. Those always just resonated with me because it was like sometimes it made people go, maybe I should think about this because they're willing to do it, but they're just flat out telling me it's not a good idea. And I just always thought it was a great job when I heard them doing that. Another one that you get sometimes for different reasons is I just want to think about it, or can I call you back? How do you handle those?
Well, those are obvious. And just remember everything you just said, like customers calling around. Remember what I said, and that just supports over and over and over again. When a customer says price, it's because they don't trust you. We've done something. When they're calling around asking competitors a price, it's because they don't trust you. I just want to drive that point home. Something you did. They drove the car to you. You inspected the car, and now they don't trust you. That's something that as an owner you really have to think about. Because I think people just think, oh, well, no, they trust me. They're just calling around. No, they don't. The minute they call around, it's because they don't trust you. So somewhere along the way, we did something to make them feel like maybe we didn't check out the car fast enough, maybe our store was dirty, maybe the manager was a little rude, maybe they looked backed up. There's a reason, but I just want to tell you, you can get rid of a lot of these problems. But this is normal. If a customer says that they want to think about it, or can I call you back? Well, that's okay. We have customers that do that every day. But that just means that, look, this customer, when they call you back, they're either going to say, yeah, I thought about it, and go ahead and do it, right? Or they're going to call you back and have an objection. They may say, well, you know what, I talked to my husband or I talked to my wife, and we just don't want to do it right now. Well, can I ask why? Well, that was a lot of money. Oh, well, great news. We have 6 months same as cash where, let me fill out a little bit of information on you, and get you approved, and we can get these repairs done today and go ahead and finance it at 6 months, same as cash. Let me go ahead and get some information. Well, my husband doesn't really want to do it. Well, you know what? Let me call your husband and just go over the repair with him. Even if you don't want to do it today, let me just go over it with him and make sure that he understands, because I know there was a lot to this repair, and let me just go over and make sure he understands what it is. Or it may be, well, we're going to get a second opinion. Oh, well, great. Well, let me do this. Where would you like the second opinion? I'll take the car over there right now and let them check it out. And at no obligation to you, if you would like them to do the repair, I'll leave the car there. I've never had it happen in 20 years. So, and I've taken it to Firestone. I've taken it to Goodyear, and they'll check it out. And guess what? I get the repair. So don't be afraid to go that extra mile. The job of an owner or a manager is to overcome every objection. Until they tell you to go to hell, hang up, even then when they pick up the car, I'm going to want to show them the repairs because I want them to understand that I'm shooting them straight. I'm not going to rip you off. Let me show you the repair. Let me show you the oil leaking, or let me show you, the belt that's all frayed. Let me show you always got to go back to that. So there's nothing wrong with them wanting to call you back. That's really just a way for them to clear their head and come back with objections. You just have to be ready when they hit you for the objection. What is the objection? Is it time or is it money? Once you think in that terms, it gets really, really easy to overcome those objections.
Well, I think, Greg, due to the fact that, we only have a couple of minutes left and there's a couple of key things that I wanted you to wrap up on at the end of it, is I think it would be, if you're okay with it, that maybe we were talking about what our next session was going to be, which was dealing with phone procedure objections. But as I go through here, we still have quite a few here, such as do I need to do the work now, calling husband or wife, budgeting, it's a lot of money and my car's not worth that, I want to trade it in. So I think it would be great, if you're okay with it, that maybe when we go into the next session that we finalize some of these other objections on dealing with the service recommendation before we dive into starting and talking about some new ways of maybe handling the phone procedures and phone objections, that we finish that out. Does that sound good to you for our next session?
Yeah, not only that, but
okay.
I will tell you, because I do think maybe we need to do this a few times. And even, I will tell you guys, not that I'm trying to sell Mudstock, but we will go over and over in depth on objections as well. This is one of the most critical conversations we can have. So you're not going to get it all on this one call. You're not going to get it on 2 calls. Maybe it's 3 calls. And then maybe it's going through it in person, and it's practicing, and it's going back and listening to this, because this is so mission critical. I try to talk fast because I want as much in there as possible, but I want to be able to go back over it with you guys. And once we hang up, have the team send you, hey, what about this, or what about this, or what about this, so that we can go into more detail. But I'd love to hear some feedback if the guys on this call would just try just a few things. If you can just close on the phone number. Have your managers make it an integrity issue. You cannot check out a car, or you cannot sell a job without physically checking out the car with a technician. You do those 2 things, incredible difference. You tie that with speed of service, advertising consistently so you get cars in the shop, turn over the ticket if a customer turns you down. There's no reason why you shouldn't see your sales dramatically improve. And some of you need all of the above. You're going to have the best benefit. You're going to see a huge increase.
Yeah, just right. You got operations managers as well. Please feel free to call and role play with them. Wrapping it up, though, Greg, some of the things, the final thoughts were, one of the things that you always say is it's not even selling. It's just educating your customer and change that mind frame. It really helps.
Yeah, and you can't educate if you don't look at the car. That's selling. So if you look at the car, and if you think about it, it's like preparing for a test. That, you know what, it may be an easy test, but you prepare for a hard one. Check out the vehicle. Write positives about the vehicle. role play with another manager or with somebody in there, and be ready for objections. And if a customer just says, yeah, do it, well, you were prepared. Don't think that every customer is going to just roll over. Be prepared for that one tough job where a customer says, well, I want to talk to my husband about it. If they ask you that, just real quickly, because I know it was one, always ask to talk to the spouse. Never try to explain to one to tell the other one. Just say, well, how about I call him? I'm happy, or I'm happy to call your wife for you and go through it with her. That way, if she has more questions or he has more questions, I can answer them at that time. What's the number where they're at, and what's her name, and I'll go ahead and call them. You always want to assume that they're going to agree with you. So one of the things that when you're selling is once you give somebody a price, you always tell them that, look, I'm going to go ahead and order the parts. And while the parts are on the way, I'm going to go ahead and check out the rest of the vehicle. Always assume. People catch little clues. Unfortunately, most people in our industry, they start out with, okay, boy, are you sitting down? This is a lot of money. Well, that's not a way to start a sale. Will you sell some that way? Sure, you can sell, but that's a very poor way of selling. But I've heard it in my stores. When I've had people not trained as they should have been, and I listen to how they pitch a job, and it's horrible sometimes. You just have to pay attention. There is a system to selling.
Mm-hmm. Next time we'll get into the rest of this, which is always be closing and be prepared and not focusing on the 1 in 20. The next webinar, Greg and I will be doing another webinar in August where we will continue dealing with objections. Please send us any objections you want to talk about next time. One of the things that I'll be sending out immediately after the webinar is a lot of these that Greg and I went through. It's kind of the word mistakes that you want to avoid, the guidelines, what is prep time, kind of giving you a review on those, and as well as some of the key points as far as how we dealt with each one of these objections. So we'll be sending that out to everybody ASAP. Greg, hopefully, have you found a place in Charlotte yet and in downtown?
Yep. Yeah, I'm downtown, but I'm sitting in a parking spot, and it actually worked out pretty good. I had good internet, so I was able to follow along, and once I got my head out of being lost, I could get into the sales. I apologize. I thought it was going to be no sweat. I pull up I'm staying at the Omni here. I pull up, and I was going to valet park, and they said, we don't have any parking, which was unbelievable. So I had to leave and park on the side of the road.
See, that was not saying yes to their customer.
No, and they're very expensive. It's ridiculous how bad that was. They want me to drive down 2 blocks and park the car or whatever a block away. I didn't even understand that. So I just got in the car and left, and I wasn't very happy. But it still all worked out. And see, now repeat business. You're never going to stay at the Omni again. You just taught everybody a great lesson. Say yes, because if you don't, you're not going to keep that customer. Well, I hope that this was helpful today. It's such an important subject, and I wish that I thought I was going to be ahead of schedule, but I am willing to do as much of this as possible. And it may do good at one of your conventions as well to go through a car and let me walk through a cell. And I don't mind selling to a manager to show, because sometimes managers don't believe it until they actually really see it happening. So there's a lot that we can do on this subject. And it will so much change your financial life if you get good at this. If you're not making money, this is why. Just take a little bit of trust and just start trying this. Because anything you do that I've covered today will improve your close ratio, which is going to put money in the owner's pocket, which is what needs to happen. So I hope that it's helpful, and I'm glad to do this as much as possible to help you guys out.
Well, we all need the reminders, that's for sure. We all got to practice. So, Greg, thank you so much. Try to get unlocked now. Thank you to everybody on the phone call, and we will be putting this up on DocShop, and I'll announce when it gets up there, and we'll send out the review of everything now. So, everybody have a great day, and talk to you again soon. Bye, Greg.
Thank you, Rissy. Bye-bye.